the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm good.
Today we're going to talk about a terrible thing that happens in every single department for every single first responder, probably worldwide. And we're going to discuss the invisible competition, rank, resentment even, all of these silent conversations and thoughts that go on, and yet they don't really openly get discussed, like, ever.
They don't get discussed, and that's something that it's there. It's, I've battled that internally because you see, and the perfect example is you see people with less time on, less experience on, getting promoted before you, or you see people who don't really have the experience, but they're able to get into that detail that you really wanted for, and you've worked nothing harder for just because you're not buddies with a person. In recognizing that it's a challenge, and it's being able to, it's if you internalize it, if you have that battle with yourself saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or if you can't always control the politics associated to it.
We know somebody really well who isn't a first responder, but who is a part of a team in a larger organization and has qualified, been overqualified, tested, retested, interviewed, all the things, and rejected. And so as we go forward in this conversation, there is a time and a place to recognize where you're kind of in a dud position, in the sense that you probably work for a dud team or have dud administration, and you may or may not be able to do anything about it. And if that's the case, there comes a point, I think, in everybody's career to where the ladder doesn't go up anymore. And it could be that it does for other people, but perhaps not for you, for a lot of different reasons. But a lot of the times it does have something to do with things that are a little bit more social, a little bit more political, and a little less HR.
Yeah, and it's also recognizing too, because I want to mention this because I've seen this happen with some of my guys before too, is there are a lot of instances where it is like that. It's the political side, it's the social side, but also you have to look internally and say, okay, well, is there something that I'm specifically doing that might be creating that dynamic, meaning of, you're talking down about the administration, you're creating that dynamic for yourself. And it's recognizing that, because there is both sides of that. And then, because I know of some of my partners over the years, they've been passed over time and time again for specific details. And I could tell you the first couple of years in which they had been passed over, it was their own fault. But after they recognized that and they changed some things, now it turned into the social problem and the political problem.
Yeah, so let's say that you're at that social problem and political problem. You've done all the things. You've straightened your shit up. Something I recently shared with you, Clint, is go to the top, go to that person that said no, and tell them, I did XYZ because XYZ is written on what needs to be done in order to be able to get to this position. And ask them, what else do you want me to do? And usually when you do that, you're calling out that individual, but with class, and you're able to put them on a spot to where they probably won't have any kind of criticism for you at all. And it might make them open up their eyes a little bit. And if not, then it might be at that point where you could need to move on, or even change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. If you had your eyes set on a detail, let's say, or a certain position, regardless of where you work, and things just aren't quite meshing in the way that you thought that they would, maybe something else better will, or maybe you need to change and go to another employer altogether. But there are some invisible signs that might be showcasing damage, not only to you, but to also your team. And it could be an example of you quietly judging, who deserves what, for example. You might feel like maybe somebody else who got the position that you wanted it didn't really earn it, or maybe you deserved it more than they did. This can cause a lot of resentment to simmer, and I feel like too, it can break the morale, because you're not the only one who's feeling that way, most likely, and then everybody kind of starts to silently talk about it.
Yeah, and it's especially when you start creating this resentment towards that person who gets the position, and ultimately, if you're holding on to those negative feelings towards that person, and they won the prize on getting that detail. They won that, and it wasn't their choice necessarily, but they had, people in administration who carried them to support them, to give them that position. So it's finding and recognizing that, and knowing where the frustration should be focused on and how you can adapt to it.
Yeah, this might also be an issue for you if success feels threatening instead of inspiring. So let's say that somebody else gets praised or they get promoted, and your gut reaction silently is jealousy instead of being happy or proud for them.
Yeah, and I think that goes hands down. And I've seen that numerous times where I've done that numerous times. Why are they getting an attaboy? Why are they getting praised for this when I've done that a shit ton of times and I've never gotten anything out of it?
I hate seeing this, and it's been a problem that I hear a lot of people discuss with me, and it's when people are withholding information or opportunities. So an example might be that knowledge sharing kind of dries up whenever testing or roles come out or are on the line. And this actually undermines the team growth and the trust, because maybe it's only one person who's going to be getting that position, but then you have a team of 20 and now you're all left in that same, the other 19 people are left after that kind of bitter whatever took place during the weeks leading up to that person that did get the position.
Yeah, I think it's important, and that's one thing that I've always stood for is share information, support one another. If that person does a little bit better than you on the test, hey, you know what? They answered the question a little differently. You are a team. You support one another and build that bridge, build that connection to be able to raise each other up, because inherently it will trickle down.
Yeah, and it's so hard for us to adhere to this cliche, but you really are only competing with yourself, because if you're testing and retesting and going through all of the motions, I know people who have tried to get higher positions within their departments, and they have gone on to, because of the skills that they developed, create TED Talks, for example. So you're building yourself up, not only in that particular position that you're trying to achieve, but all of the other skills that you're trying to, all the other skills that you're learning and adapting to because of that as a consequence. And it's so important too to make sure that you're celebrating with other people who are, you said win the prize. I really liked that. And, you're sharing in their wins, because something really sad is when you see somebody and they do get that role, get that position, and they have nobody to celebrate with. And a lot of the times it's because that is that sour Susie or that really bitter person who didn't want you to achieve any kind of success because it looks better on you than it does on them. And so don't be that guy.
Yeah, you don't want to harbor those negative emotions towards others just because they won the prize. And being able to love and support them and be there for them, and do it. Don't do it half-heartedly. Do it when if you really mean it. You want to show people that support, because you're going to not only create that positive mindset in yourself and being truly happy for someone, you're not going to go down that negative spiral where you're just saying, well, I'm better than them. So that holding on to that just creates those negative emotions, negative feelings, to where you don't want to sit on that on a regular basis.
Something that I love is when people exude confidence, and you usually get there by going through the reps. And let's say that you're in that situation and you know that you're not the only one feeling that way, where the pressure is high, the tension is on. And let's say that you're sitting there waiting for briefing to start and it's dead silent, whereas usually you guys are joking around with each other and it's fun before the shift begins. And all of a sudden, that one person with that confidence and that energy, the one that just can't keep the elephant in the room anymore, decides to speak up, and they talk about the tension, and they break that silence and open the conversation about what everybody is feeling in that room. Even something as simple as, man, waiting to see who gets this position really sucks, doesn't it, guys?
Yeah. And being able to approach those conversations in kind of a broad perspective like that is super important. Like I'm thinking back to my department right now. We have a whole bunch of different details that they've tested for and promotions that they've tested for. And I know everyone on those lists, there's attention, like who's going to get it, who's done the right steps to be able to get that. And it's being able to support one another and build that confidence amongst each other to see how you can support them in the future as well.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.